So yesterday, last couple of days, you guys had a form that you had to fill, and in that, many of you also asked some questions, okay, regarding what are the kind of questions or what issues you have with anthropology, your doubts about anthropology. We'll take one by one, and then we'll try to discuss that as well, okay. So good afternoon to all of you. So my name is Natraj. I handle anthropology here at ForumIAS. Today's session is going to be an orientation session where I'm going to try to give you a good idea about what is anthropology, okay, and what are the things that we'll discuss today. Okay, primarily, what is anthropology? How many of you actually know what is anthropology? Definitely, correct? Okay, good. So you've done research about what is anthropology before. Do all of you know what is anthropology? Are you trying to experiment with what exactly is this kind of subject? Is it a subject that sort of gels well with me and my style of studying? What exactly is it? Okay, so this is one area that I'm going to probably take a look at, but you have to tell me whether you've actually done your research or what. Okay, second thing is benefits of taking anthropology for UPSC. That is one area that they've asked me to speak on. These are the benefits according to me. Now you might think that there are some other benefits, right? These are the benefits that I thought that in my journey in UPSC, like these are the kind of benefits that I got from it. Okay, I will tell you in detail about what is the explanation of the syllabus. What is anthropology? We'll come back to. Understanding what is anthropology, what are the different modules within anthropology, what comes in your paper 1, what comes in your paper 2, right? What it requires out of you, that is that, and then probably some of the other questions that you will have. I have some other questions also listed out, from most of you. I think most of you have given me a question already. Okay, I'll just ask here if they can hear me. Have you guys all finished your GS preparation? Or you're just going on? Or you're going to take it a little later, or what is the plan? GS ho gaya? Okay. Anybody switching from a particular optional, moving to anthropology? You're switching from an optional, moving to anthropology. Philosophy. Why so? In my other batch somewhere else also there is a student from philosophy. What was your issue with philosophy? Is that in multiple sort of events, attempts? Okay, fine. Fine, but the rest of you are fresh? Okay, you've zoology, okay. And the reason for shifting from zoology? Okay. Have you written your mains before? Okay, but you just didn't feel like much of a fit with Got it. Okay, so we got to all make the right call. Okay. So this is the agenda. So first of all, just like what she said, anthropology is basically the study of humans, right? When we say it is anthropology is study of man, we're basically saying that it is study of mankind as a whole, right? And it is study of man across space. It is study of man across time. When I say space, it's a study of man here in India, South India, North India. It's a study of man in Andaman and Nicobar sort of islands. It is a study of man in Australasia, North America, South America, wherever man is there, we have to study them in totality, holistic. When I say across time, right, the study of ourselves, the study of humankind across time, what do we say? We're basically studying humans from the past all the way till present. We are a minuscule, our generation, right, in the last 100 years, we've been populating the earth, but the earth has been around for many, we all know, right, 4.5 billion years, is that right? Right, something along those lines. So we are trying to understand when we can say the species Homo basically began and how far we have come. And what are the kind of changes that we've taken along? Not only in terms of the physicality of us. What is the height? What is the weight? Were we bipedal, standing on 2 feet, walking on 2 feet? Did we have fur? We did not have fur. What exactly resulted in these kind of changes? All of that. Okay, now that is a physical aspect, but also in terms of like economic aspects. Today, some of us are like vegetarian, right? For last 2000 years, we've never eaten anything in non-vegetarian food. But were we always like that? Did we always survive on agricultural produce? Right? Now this is something that we have to see. When did agriculture begin? Before that, what was the kind of diet? Were all of us hunting and gathering sort of communities? Right? So there are many such aspects here. So anthropology as such, it comes from human, anthropos, and logia, which means scientific study or systematic study, right? So we'll take a look at ourselves, study of ourselves. Just an introduction. When you look at anthropology, just like in any other field, you'll probably see like many different modules within it. Okay, so the way I teach it, we have 5 modules. Okay, but primarily it is going to be your cultural anthropology, social and cultural anthropology. You will have archaeological anthropology. If you've done your history, very first chapter of history, ancient history, you would have probably seen, even before you reach Indus Valley civilization, there are certain chapters that we take a look at. Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and so on and so forth. Okay, we'll do that a little more in detail. What are the kind of men, women present during that time? What are the kind of tools that we used? What differentiates Lower Paleolithic from your Middle Paleolithic from others, and so on and so forth. Biological anthropology. Okay, this is essentially the portion where we deal with nutrition, the one that we just talked about, right? Nutrition as such. Evolutionary span of time, if you take a look at it, we all were hunting and gathering sort of communities at some point. Post that, we move on to another sort of a diet. Okay, that could be a pastoralist sort of a diet or invention of agriculture. But today also you see many different countries having many different kind of diets. Nutritional anthropology, we study that. That comes under biological anthropology. We study DNA fingerprinting, meaning let us say that, one of us, is caught somewhere on a CCTV camera, or let's say that you're not caught on a CCTV camera. Something goes missing in this particular place. You have touched, one of us has touched, probably the doorknob or something like this. Ability to sort of identify a person based on the genetic markers of that particular person. Okay, not necessarily the biology of it, but the anthropology of it. Right? So you have to understand what is the DNA, what is the DNA molecule, but more so about what are the applications of that. Where is it being used? Are we using it enough? Right? Science always has some sort of applications, right, for humanity. Okay, do we always utilize it? Where is it being utilized? All of those kind of things we'll take a look at. There is another field that is called linguistic anthropology. So social, cultural anthropology, linguistic anthropology, all of these fields basically tell us about ourselves. What is the range of diversity that we have? Right? We'll try to explore some of these angles as well. Okay, so what are the kind of diversities in terms of the language? Even language in terms, we have plenty of languages in India. We say that, right? We have plenty of languages. There are languages that we may not even think of, the way they speak. Okay, and all of these things put together will have some applied anthropology. There are some scholars within anthropology that always say that anything that we study in anthropology should have some sort of utility for humanity. Does that make sense? So if we study something, it should basically help humanity in some way, shape, or form, right? So that is what it is. Applied anthropology, or sometimes it is called a little more ahead than that, is going to be action anthropology. Applied anthropology is basically you making some recommendations. As an anthropologist, you basically make some recommendations about how, for instance, dietary choices or welfare of a particular group, like a scheduled tribe, right? These are the kind of components that we call applied anthropology. There are, and especially with the Native American groups in America, if you notice Native American groups in America, they were not doing so well at all. So there was a field that was action anthropology, which was the anthropologists going and working with the tribals themselves in order to improve their lot. That's the action. It's like you roll up your sleeves and get down to business. Here, what do? In applied anthropology, you don't roll up your sleeves and get down to business, but you recommend it to the people who are actually doing it, the administrators. Okay, now you will be, see, this is an interesting sort of combination. You are going to be an administrator, not an anthropologist, but you will be an anthropologically trained administrator. So the chances of you being able to deliver a lot better, possibly both in terms of applied and in terms of action, would be a lot higher. Okay, so that is the different subfields of this. Advantages and benefits of taking anthropology, right? These are ideas according to me. Now, I was a working professional. Okay, I had a job and I had 10-12 hours that I had to contribute to my job, and it was not an easy job. It was a corporate world. You've got to deliver, right? Like, and if you've worked before, you probably understand that. Okay, quitting my job was not a choice. Okay, it was not an option for me. Okay, and I was working in some places. I was working in Hyderabad for a little while. I was in the US for a little bit. I was in Dubai for a little bit. I needed something that I can handle along with my work. One of the major reasons I took anthropology, there are a few reasons that went along for my choice, but one of the most important thing that I felt was that I needed something that I can handle. In those 3 to 4 months when I have to write 9 papers, that is a challenge for me. Okay, 9 papers is something that I know for sure I find it difficult to handle. So I need something that is the smallest sort of a syllabus, and if I can understand that syllabus, great. Okay, so that was one of the major reasons why. Okay, if you look at the second option, is that the second sort of benefit that I see is that you can be good at a subject. First thing, you have to be interested in that particular subject. You should have a good mentor in that particular subject who can guide you through your journey of that difficulty and overcoming that adversity. If it happens that you have put in that good work, you have written answers, you have gone through a particular test, a series of tests, okay, you should be able to tell yourself that I can score in this subject. It cannot be that you go and spend those 1 year, prepare for that, go and write that exam, and if somebody asks you at the end of the day, how did your exam go? Pata nahi. I'll have to see when the mark comes. It cannot be like that. Okay, it's got to tell you, depending upon your effort, it should tell you whether you've had a good day or you've had a bad day. That much should be clear. It could be good or bad. Okay, one of the better thing about this optional is that regardless of what kind of questions come in this paper, it is always going to be a subject that is highly scoring. If you look at the last few years that I've seen, from the time I've been preparing also, every single year you've seen scores of 300 plus. There are many subjects that have gone up, they've gone down, but anthropology as a area hai, right? You know for sure that if there are certain things that you put in your question, under the question, there are certain things that you place there, you will score well. Okay, so I'm not saying 300. 300. There are few people who will score. I've been there. I have climbed that path. Okay, but you can tell yourself that 270, 280 to hai. Anything more than this thing, it depends on the uniqueness and innovation, and these are some things that we will discuss here as well. Okay, so that is that. Another thing is basically it should be, optional is something that we have to read for a year. Correct? Minimum 1 year we will be reading this, right? From today when you take it up all the way till, when is the exam? September 2023, is that right? September 2023, October 2023, something along those lines. If it is at that particular time period, a subject, in order to keep us interested for a while, it should be interesting to you, right? It should be there. One thing about anthropology is that it has got something for everybody. You will see anthropology is a series of multiple subjects put together. There is something called economic anthropology, which is like literally like economics. Economics of simple societies, tribal societies, peasant societies, or even economics of modern industrial complex societies that you probably have learnt in your GS as well. Right? There is something called political anthropology. There is a little bit of political science in there as well. How does government or power and authority and legitimacy, by the way, these are all part of the syllabus. Okay, how does it actually manifest in simple societies, again, tribal societies, peasant societies, or even like modern industrial complex societies? Okay, there is a little bit of biology in it. There is a little bit of history in it. Archaeology, that is literally history, right? There is a little bit of linguistics in it. There is a little bit of understanding and helping Indian society in your paper too. So there is a plenty of things here that can keep you sort of interested. So that is another area that I find to be very good. Now see, in terms of scoring patterns, I've basically given this as number 1 because at the end of the day, what's your name? Niranjan. See, Niranjan, and I feel for you, okay, because a couple of years writing mains and not being able to see the kind of returns that you would want is a very difficult thing to see, okay, and having to make that choice. And I feel for you, okay, but it should be that, this, if you put in that effort, you should be able to see the scores. Okay. Now, I don't generally like talking about scores so much because at the end of the day, I feel like if there is a subject that interests you, maybe electrical engineering, mathematics, medical science, there will be some people who score there. But sometimes, it's just not one of those subjects that is clicking for you. Okay, that could probably what it is. Okay, but in this particular subject, looks like this is a subject, and I'll give you last 5 years kind of patterns. You see Anudeep Durishetty, I think he was part of ForumIAS as well. Sachin Gupta, Koyashree Harsha, 1, 3, 6. You generally see a lot of people having these ranks, and actually Sachin was my flatmate, and he's a good friend of mine. Okay, Sachin, he shifted from public administration. After one attempt, right, before he knew the score, he realized that there are some questions which he is not able to understand whether he is writing the right answer for it. What exactly is the question asking, he was not able to sort of understand. He realized that that is a subject that was very interesting to him, but it's not something that is clicking with him. He went ahead and then he shifted to anthropology, and he could manage there. Because anthropology, why do you shift to anthropology from a different subject? I think one of the reasons why you did want to shift it is because it's shorter syllabus. Okay, short, so return on investment is high, right? Something like this. Okay, so Koyashree Harsha 2017, around this one, around 306 marks. Just take a look at the scores. Okay, Anudeep around 318, first attempt. He had shifted from another subject as well in his 5th or 6th attempt. I have common friends with him. Sachin Gupta, okay, 339. Iske pehle he had one more attempt in which again he had scored 300 plus. I'm not sure. Okay, this was his 3rd mains. Koya, he was 338. 2018, you had Akshat Jain. There's a very popular book that is there in the market as well. Shreyans Kumat, basically All India rank 13. Lakshmi is also a friend of mine. We prepared. Patki, Mandar, Jayant Rao, Gitanjali Sharma, Ayush Jain. So if you, every single year when you take a look at it, there are people who make it through anthropology. Okay, and anthropology gets them a pretty darn decent score here. So this is 362. I think this was like 2 to 3 years ago, which is the highest score, okay, at that particular time period. Okay. 2020, again, if you take a look at it, you have Shubham Kumar, who was ranked number 1, 9, 13, 32, 58, 73. And these are not the only ranks in the top 100. If I just do toppers of 2020, some people will be on YouTube who have given like some sort of a, from there I just basically noted it. So this is not the exhaustive list. 2021, has anybody done the research? I have not. Okay, but you realize one thing, anthropology, if you can manage the subject, and I'll tell you like how exactly you manage after I tell you like what the subject is. How do you prepare for a whole year? You could be here as well. It can get you your 300, 310, 320 if you know what you're doing. And I'll tell you what exactly it is that you have to do. Okay, are you able to understand me? All following? Am I speaking too fast? Nahin? Sab theek? So he had, again, last year, 320, somebody had a 306, 2021 data I don't have, okay? But you get the picture. I don't really want to speak so much about marks because I believe if you have real passion for a particular subject, and if that subject means quite a bit to you, you should probably go ahead and choose that as well, because you will be able to spend some time and become the best at it. Okay, you will be able to become the best at it, and it is not that difficult as far as anthropology is oriented. Another important sort of component is that, see, I have students who have not written mains. I have students who have not been able to write mains, who were one of my best students in multiple batches. I think the important thing is that you've got to be able to find a way to clear your prelims, so you take that also very seriously. Anthropology as such, I told you, it is multiple small subjects put together. Okay, there is a lot of relevance to your GS subjects as well. So for instance, if I say, there is chapter, you don't know the syllabus yet, okay? So archaeology, archaeology is there for your prelims, your mains, the first few chapters, okay? You will never have to take a look at your NCRTs again. Basic biology concepts, prelims mein, every single year you see this, right? Science and technology is part of your main syllabus as well. So there is a lot of relevance and there is a lot of overlap when it comes to these two things. Social and cultural anthropology, basically 1, 2, all the way till 5. This entire thing, except for one small portion, is covered in your GS1 mains mein, Indian society portion. Except for urbanization. Urbanization is the only line that is not covered. But everything else is covered in your anthropology, and you will know this lot better. In fact, the same questions could appear in your GS1 mains. The same questions will appear in your anthropology mains as well. Okay. The only thing is that you have to tweak one to become a little generalist. The other one you have to make it slightly, a little more anthropological relevance in it, right? But the concepts will be the same, exact same. Okay, and again, similarly, you have problems of exploitation of, and deprivation of the scheduled caste communities, the scheduled tribes communities, okay? And what are the kind of constitutional safeguards? How exactly is it sort of operating in the country? Okay, all of that is there in your GS2, right? GS2 mains mein, all of these things. Similarly, problems specifically of tribal communities, right? Probably, the health, education, and related stuff, again, in GS2. And there's something, there is a lot of interesting examples about like what happens around the world that we can always use in our ethics, always use in our essay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there is a lot of commonality, and I sort of think that this is kind of important as well. In the previous year, I think there were a whole bunch of questions that relate to tribal, science, and so many of the commonalities. I've just copied a few. So for instance, with reference to India, the terms halbi, ho, kui pertain to, so on and so forth. Okay, at the national level, scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers, recognition of forest rights act, prelims mein. These are questions that, you see this thing, you suddenly go, okay, I see forest, environment, forest, and climate change under pressure or something like this. And a lot of people did that as well. But it's literally part of your syllabus. Can't go wrong. Okay, very, very sort of important. Always there are questions about science, and many of the science questions. In fact, if you've ever noticed, every single year in your prelims, almost every single year, there will be some questions which have options as A, bacteria, B, virus, C, fungus. Right? And still people get it wrong every single year. All of these things we study in great amount of detail. In fact, hereditary disease is part of your syllabus as well. Okay, difficult to go wrong in any of these things. Recombinant vector vaccines. So there are plenty of benefits when it comes to your prelims. And in my opinion, a lot more sort of commonality when it comes to overlap, when it comes to mains. Okay, you are able to sort of extract many such examples and other things as well. Okay, Now, is that clear? You have any other questions regarding the benefits of taking anthropology? Right? See, benefits of taking anthropology is हमें एक subject लेना है. We have to take a particular subject. Now you have to take a subject that really works for you. You should have interest in that particular subject, and you should have a good guide mentor so that you know that you're following the right route. And if you have that, I think you can excel in any particular subject. Okay, but I will talk about anthropology because that is my subject. That is what I'm here to sort of explain to you. I think this is another element that they had asked me to speak about. What are the kind of trends? But the trends are something that it will be difficult for you to understand until you understand the syllabus as well. But I've given you an idea and perspective about what are the scoring trends, right? 300 hoga. Okay, every single year there will be some 20 people who will be able to manage that particular score, right? There might be, it really depends on that. But overall, if you just take a look at it, the syllabus from the topics that we're going to talk about, I have done a mapping of the kind of questions. I've just done it in Excel. I've created a pie chart on what are the kind of topics. Are you guys able to see from there? Okay, so your paper one, basically 1/3 of your topics were your biological anthropology. Okay, 1/3 or let's say 1/4 of your subject was social cultural anthropology. We'll see what these are. Okay, and then you had linguistic anthropology, just a 4%, but linguistic anthropology is an interesting topic. History or your archaeology, okay, both put together, archaeology and fossils, I club it together in one particular module. It's approximately what, 1/6 of your syllabus. Now all of these things, if you consider the paper to be 400 and not 250, 28 questions hote hain, right? Now, depending upon your strength, you can make this, a lot of your chunk of your paper, you can make it biology if you feel that is your calling. Okay, if you feel like you're gifted in explaining and in talking about different societies and cultures and cultural diversities, then you'd probably highlight, you probably want to focus on these sort of areas, or you could actually focus on the history, depending upon what is your strength, right? And all of these things are interesting, and I'll try to build a case on why. Okay, and there are some theories as well. Around 6% of your syllabus basically has some theories as well. You can take it down. This also gives you an idea what are the relative importance of it. Okay, in fact, what do you see from here? Actually, there's good relative importance for anything. Bio 1/3, 1/4. Okay, history around 1/6. Okay, and the miscellaneous are ones that basically interconnect a couple of these topics. I call. Okay, leave that for now. Okay, and then these. This is from your paper 1. Okay, this is from your paper 1. Can I move? Paper 2. Where is the focus? So primarily, approximately 47% of your paper is about tribals, tribal culture, tribal diversities, tribal languages, tribal, you get the picture, tribal welfare, tribal, any of these things regarding tribals. Okay, Indian society. Exact same kind of concepts that will be asked in your paper 1 GS1 mains as well. Okay, but slightly, you'll have slightly a technical answer. So for instance, about Sanskritization, Westernization. Do you guys know, have you heard about this? Right, now this is something that you'll probably utilize to explain social change even in your GS1. Here you'll probably bring in the scholar who has given us this particular idea. Mysore Narasimhachar Srinivas. Okay, M.N. Srinivas, right, something like that. Even here you have a little bit of history. Can you see archaeology and fossils? What are fossils, by the way? Have you guys ever heard of Homo erectus? Neanderthals. 40,000 years ago, we did not look the exact same as this. Okay, and we have some evidence that we have received or we have found excavated in like caves in different parts of the world. Okay, and from there we realized that there are different kind of people. For instance, this distinct chin, we did not have this distinct, can you see this chin? Right, and if you, the next time you go and see some animal, another primate, chimpanzee, gorilla or something like this, you'll start seeing that they don't have this distinct chin. Yahan se, it literally goes back. We are the only ones who have this distinct chin. Why so? Okay, and there are certain things. Okay, so how exactly did our ancestors basically, how do they look? We have been able to sort of unearth some of these fossils. Okay, so these are the relative importance of these areas, and this is primarily from last year, and it could obviously vary by the time you're writing in 2023, but these are the only areas in the subject. Is that clear? We'll talk about each and every one of the modules for a little bit, and then after that I'll go into how do you prepare for the subject, how do we teach it here, and so on and so forth. By the way, social and cultural anthropology. What is society? How is that different from culture? It's not exactly a vocabulary class, but would you have any thought? If I say, what is your culture like? What is Indian society like? Are they the same questions? It is not the same. different groups. So, which is not heritable? Culture is not heritable. Okay, good, good, good. No, no, please bring it on. Then society is also not heritable. So you're telling me some commonalities. Okay, great. Okay, it is heritable and it is also, it forms their identity. So what is your identity? What is your culture like? How would you describe your own culture? Forget anthropology class. If somebody asks you who's come from some other country is asking you, hey, you seem interesting. Maybe you got IFS. You're sitting with somebody else. Okay, the way we greet, this is kind of thing. Okay, so see, society is a group of people, and I'm putting this in a very, very simple manner. Okay, it is interaction between people. You're actually right, and you were right to a great extent, slightly, but there are some differences. So culture is any learnt behavior. It is any learnt behavior, and that is transmitted from generation to generation or person to person. I'll tell you one thing. Okay, what is me? A lot of this thing is just genetic. Okay, I look like partly like my father, partly like my mother. Okay, but not everything. For instance, my hair color, my hair form, my hair texture, all of those things are like all inherited. But my hairstyle is probably cultural. You get the picture? I learned that a lot of people have this side parting, and maybe I have this. You get the picture? So there are some things about us that are just us. Okay, the rest of it. For instance, the shirt that you're wearing. Let's say, let's go back 30 years. If it was your father's generation, your grandfather's generation, in a formal environment, will this be the exact attire that your father would probably be wearing? Or your grandfather might have been wearing? Culture changes. It is basically learnt behavior. You decide that this is what is right for me, this is what is stylish, this is what looks good on me, and that is basically learnt behavior. Okay, this is not part of you. This is something that you've imbibed. We, members, are the society. We have a culture. We follow a culture. You said this, okay, this particular is a cultural trait. The people doing this are the part of the society. Now you understand this? So understanding societies and their culture or their learned behavioral patterns is basically a socio-cultural anthropology. In anthropology, we have basically 5-6 areas that we have to study. And these are marriage, the kind of marriages that are prevalent in society. Then the families, okay. Kinship basically means relations, okay. Economic institutions, political, religion, and so on and so forth. At least a couple of these things I'll try to explore today. North India. How many of you are from North? How many of you from South? How many from North? Let's start with North. Almost everybody. And how many from South? I always want to ask this. As Maharashtra, what do you consider? North, South, Central? Identify more with which culture? North Indian, South Indian? Both the cultures? Okay. And you're from? Karnataka. Okay, great. Okay, you're from? Bengali, East Indian. Okay, great. And who else? That's it? Okay, the rest of you from the North? North India, there is a concept called village exogamy, meaning village ke andar, like you cannot marry into the village. Okay, I'm a South Indian. This is something I've never heard of. Okay, you cannot marry within the same village, and if that happens, in certain parts of the country, you have honor killings. South India, today the situation is different. But if you go back 50 years from now, they generally tend to marry within the same village only. Okay, you get the picture? In fact, in South India, in South Indian Hindu societies, you have a kind of a marriage that is more of mama or kya bolte usko? Mama and mama niece, uncle niece. English mein bole to uncle niece. Hindi mein I don't know how you say it. Okay, mama and jo bhi. ठीक है? And same thing, huh? Yeah, exactly. But इनको नहीं पता होगा ना. So that is that. And also cross cousin marriages. मतलब cousin को marry करते हैं. And these are preferential marriage systems. समझ रहे हो आप? Like, so if you take kinship, you have to understand that different societies, different kind of rules. Now this is something new to you. Did you just learn this? First time? Okay, this used to be very, very common. Okay, the place where I teach in Bangalore as well. In that, if I ask them, like, how many of you have some form of cousin marriages or uncle niece marriages even today, okay, almost 99% of them have this. Or that 1 to 10% who don't have this, they don't know whether they have it or not. You get the picture? Okay, so there is a lot of diversity even amongst what we call as Hindu society. What is there in Hindu Marriage Act? Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? Is it more representative? Does it represent more of the North Indian tradition? Does it represent the South Indian tradition? Or, to keep you guys also in the loop, East, Central, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is your kinship. Let's take a look at marriage and certain other things as well. Understand how how much diversity is there in the forms, and why are these diversities there. So for instance, let's take the first institution. So socio-cultural anthropology, there is the first one. The first institution is marriage. Take a marriage. See, my third year, I believe it was my third year or my second year. Sorry, my second year to third year when I was in university, I was doing an internship. I was doing my university in the US. I had taken an internship, so I thought, and I was kind of a nerdy student. Okay, so even during internship, I felt like I have to learn something. I thought I'll take something easy. I took some subject called Intro to Marriage. Entire summer, I have one particular class. And I remember because I had some colleagues and they were much elder to me. Internship time, no, you have many senior, all of this thing. They also used to make fun of me, thinking that, look at him, he's going to be an expert in marriage. Beta, you cannot become expert by reading this book. Okay, iske liye shadi. You get the picture, right? But I was learning this particular subject. I thought it was really fascinating. Okay, the very first day we had this, there was a particular exercise in which we were all asked basically to define what is marriage according to us. Anybody? Union between male and female, excellent. Okay, great. Okay, that is very nice. Legitimate child hona chahiye, correct, yes, wonderful. Then anybody else? Is that what is marriage? Any other sort of definitions? There are. See, okay, love marriage ho sakta hai, okay, love marriage and arranged marriage, this classification. Concepts are different. Okay, okay. You've already studied so many of these things, looks like it. Okay, it is there. But what is marriage to you? A social bond. I can have a social bond with my mother, father, sister, but that need not be marriage. So social bond of some type. Okay, you get the picture. So in order to just build a definition on what is marriage and ensure that that applies to every single society, not only to my society or your society, is a very difficult task. In fact, as I told you, I was kind of academically inclined. I was not from the humanities or social sciences, but I took many of these subjects because Vampe, you have options of taking as many electives as you want, enriches you. I took it very seriously, even though it is a definition. I came out with everything that I could think of. Faithful, I threw in all kinds of terms. This is not exactly what it is, but from what I recall, faithful relationship between people. They have to be exclusive. Man for the other person for this. Okay, lifelong union. Okay, with women committing themselves completely to each other. If you have ever been to a Christian wedding or at least watched it on TV, okay, what do they say? Together in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, until death parts them, and so on and so forth. I created some of these things. In fact, the very next day when we had gone to class, we realized that I was criticized like anything. How could you say that this is a definition of marriage? Because the first thing is, how could you say the marriage is between a man and a woman? Wahan by then they had already legalized gay marriages. A male and a male can get married. It didn't even occur to me. Okay, and a male and a female, how do I change it? A male and another male, or a person and a person, how do I? So when we say, this is a wedding, marriage, okay, now this is South Indian, North Indian, kaisa hai ye? Kahan ka hai? Why do you say this? Why do you say it's South? No, why did it occur? Because of shirtless thing? What do you wear for weddings here? Sherwani. No, Sherwani is actually for wedding reception, right? Yeah, wedding time. Mein. Suit. Okay, westernized. Okay, great. Everybody generally. Okay, great. Are you guys very urbanized sort of a group, or? But still suit. Okay, great. Anybody else? Everybody knows the South Indian wedding? Mujhe bhi laga. Okay, because it seemed like it seemed familiar. Okay, and then they will have some jaggery paste and they'll place it, and then they'll look at that Arundhati and all of that. Okay, see, there's a difference between marriage and wedding. This is the wedding. Matlab ye shaadi ka din. Okay, and marriage basically is that day plus the rest of your life or until you are together. Okay, now some people have it like this, but this is marriage, and somebody else would have something like this. I'm not sure if it is very clear, but you get the picture. This is clear. Okay, my definition of marriage, this is what I pictured. When I said marriage also, this is what you pictured, isn't it? Right, all of you, or you pictured the other picture, okay. But they're picking apart, and the whole idea was to try to come out with a definition through which every single society come marriage should still be encompassed. Leave this for now, okay? So this is marriage. This is marriage. We don't have it here. Do we have it here? Yes? We have this marriage? We have it here? Are you sure? It is not allowed. Homosexuality is not the same as homosexual marriages. You get the picture? A relationship does not necessarily mean it is a marriage. Okay, again we are trying to define. So does that mean we have to have a contract? What kind of bond is it? Is it a legal bond? Something like this, right? So this is a marriage. So if I change it to a man and a man, will it be okay? You should still factor this. If I change it to a man, faithful, all of those things, I put it together, legal bond, everything that you want, I'm adding that. And I say, with multiple women, where is this place? Indonesia, Malaysia, somewhere there, okay? Because this is, they look like they are from that part of the world. And you also see that, generally prevalent in which community or which religion? Islam. Islam authorizes that. It allows for that, okay? So if I say, then it is one man and multiple women, it is good. So now we are set. Pakka. So we have finally gotten a definition. Okay, one man and multiple women. But this is also a marriage. This is a socially approved marriage. We pray to them. Okay, this is, what is this from? Are you able to see from there? Can you want to come here? Are you able to see from there? Okay. This is, what am I showing here? One woman, Draupadi, okay, and there are so many different kinds of marriage in different societies. Why did this happen? We have a story that it happened because, when Arjun came back and said, Mama, guess what I brought? She was too busy and she said that, whatever you brought, just share it amongst yourselves. And they being like very sort of obedient boys, they did not want to go against that. Okay, but it could also mean that this was okay during that time period. We might also be obedient. But if our mother says this thing, we will take it back. Wo nahi, this is not shareable. Bolte na. But not necessarily here. So what is exactly happening here? That means this also is a form of a marriage. Today, it may not be okay in our society, but there was a point of time when it was okay. In fact, we say that it may not be okay in our society today. But you should also know that there are some parts, It is. So, for instance, if you take a look at this is the Khasa, Uttarakhand, that basic area, the Himalayan area, Tibetans, Khasas, and some other groups. I'll tell you more about it. And can you see, this is the female here, and she's married to the brothers. Not to her brothers. These two are brothers to whom she is married. So when she's married here, she's also considered to be married there. You get the picture? This is also prevalent. So meaning, anthropology, you basically have to try to understand many different kinds of any of those social and cultural institutions, marriage, family, kinship, हमने बात किया, right? What it is. So the idea here is, and I'll come to this. There's another group also. I could not get a picture that is like very clear, but this is, which group this is? Correct. This is the. No. That is a good this thing that the tribal societies. This is a group called the Todas. TODA. Okay, and they are part of Nilgiris. Okay, Nilgiri Mountains. Ooty suna hai? Right, so there's a place called Ooty, and there if you go, there is a traditional community called the Todas, and they are pastoralist. They have this, giant buffaloes that give milk, and they live with some sort of economic interdependence with the local communities there. And they also have this thing called Fraternal Polyandry, the word that she used, which basically means if she marries one brother, one guy, she's considered to be married to all the brothers. And this was there until very, very recently. Today, what is happening is there is a lot of culture change because, these things are not considered to be, socially approved anymore because now they're living with culture contact. Now, we always say, char log kya kahenge? But this is what worked for them. And each and every one of these things have a reason why. For instance, in this community, they have less number of women considered to the number of boys. In the other community, they have a different reason because here, the thing is, can you see this? The kind of environment that you can see? What is the kind of environment that they're living in? Like fertile, lush green area? Or no, basically they're living in the hilly areas in which, getting even local food is going to be very difficult. So they have this idea that if every single man is going to marry, let's say there are 3 brothers, all 3 brothers get married to one wife each. Okay, and let's say all of those wives give 3 children. How many kids do we have in the next generation? 9 ho gaya. But if I get married all 3 brothers to one woman, okay, she can have only 3. So I've reduced the number of people that I have to share. The extremely limited sort of supply of resource has come down to a great extent. If not, what happens? All 9 will suffer. Rather, we live in this particular manner, it works for us, at least we will all survive. You understand, every single form has a particular reason why they follow it. But why does marriage? But every society has some form of marriage, correct? Today, if you look at it, almost every society has to have some form of marriage because marriage performs certain functions. Kya functions hai marriage ka? Why do we all get married? Today, you probably don't know. 5 years from now, there will be, ghar pe there will be calls, saying that, numbers are going up. Okay, it is time for you to start looking at, obviously, in our society, generally opposite sex only. Okay, these kind of options will not be available to you, at least to the most of us, right? So you will probably be asked to take a call and do all of those things. But why do you need that marriage? Marriage nahi hai to what happens? So marriage performs a function such as, continuing of your lineage, correct? Sexual reproduction, having the next generation. Security, what kind of security? That is good. You've studied anthropology. Okay, so actually, it's called the postpartum wala this thing. So generally in species that have, the mother cannot manage by herself until the child is like fully grown. Those are the kind of species that basically have some sort of a bond because the male will have to go and help. Have you seen some birds? Some birds also have this kind of a relationship. If you have, there will be an eagle on top, let's just say, on top of a mountain, some bird. Okay, if the mother leaves the chicks and goes to get food, there will be some other bird that will come and eat those eggs off or the chicks off. They will have to have some form of this thing. The great Indian bustard, not the bustard. What is that? Nagaland. The one that I'm talking about is the hornbill. Okay, hornbill also has one of those things where there is some sort of a bond and things like this. So she is correct. Okay, so the point is there are functions to be performed. For that, what is the best kind of a marriage that is good for your kind of society? That will be the kind of marriage that will be there. So at the end of the day, we are trying to understand different kind of forms of marriage that is prevalent in many different societies by understanding why it is prevalent in that particular society. What is the function it performs in that particular society? Is that kind of clear? So this is what we basically study in marriage. This is again another Toda hut. Okay. And this is actually a student of mine who had gone there like a couple of months ago, and she's sitting here. In fact, she thought this is the home, but this is their temple. And in this temple, women are not allowed anywhere close. And she didn't realize it. She has gone very close. Taken pictures also, and I think she put it on status update also. Hopefully no other Toda saw it and felt hurt. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so this is your marriage. Take another one, and I think we can skip this because I can go on to the next one. But religion, is religion universal? What is religion? Irrational thing. Okay. Let's factor that also in because all kinds of thoughts should be there. Then what else is there? Any other definition for religion? See, you said way of life for culture also. Okay, so everything is a way of life. Actually, it is true because religion is also part of culture. Correct? Religion is also part of culture. So basic way of life. Some sort of divinity, sacredness, sanctity to that. Okay, then. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. He's been in this thing. Okay, do we all need religion? Why do we need religion though? Can we do without religion? Huh? To guide us. Guide us how? To lead a certain way of life. Okay, so there is basically like inner calling or a higher voice that basically tells you this is the path to walk. Okay, something like this. Okay, so that is basically saying that it teaches you morality, the do's and don'ts. Okay, that is a great one. But if you don't have that, will we always be a bad person? Will he be a bad person because maybe he believes it is irrational, there is no guiding light within him? So given a choice between this and that, he always chooses the wrong option. Can we say that about him? Rationality was not there. Today we have rationality. We are all see if you look at India as a whole, we are like the top 1 percentile when it comes to, because we have had the opportunity to study for UPSC. We've had opportunity to not just do education just for formal education, but to spend a little more time in it, understand a little better at it. So we are rational. Can I assume that? Can I assume that we are one of the most rational people here? Okay, so we don't need religion. We can live without religion. Okay, we can live without religion. So anthropology may generally we talk not about individuals but about society as a whole. Okay, I'll give you a perspective. What are the kind of functions? I'll give you an example here. This is an animal, okay, which holds a lot of importance. How many of you are actual Hindus here? How many of you are non-Hindus here? Okay, what is your Buddhist? Okay, Buddhist. Okay, that's interesting. This is, but you know about Hinduism, right? So you understand, why is this cow important? Do you know what is this kind of function? Gau Puja. Why do you do Gau Puja? It is correct. So this is basically like, I think 1 month ago, and I'm sorry if you guys are not able to see it. It's not very clear, right? Is it clear? Okay, this is my sister and this is my brother-in-law. Okay, and recently I'd been to this, and now it is very difficult for me to be an actual Hindu, but I'm always being like an anthropology person who's looking at the religious practice of others and trying to understand what does it mean to them. Okay, so I was like clicking important pictures. Okay, so what am I trying to understand? Why are they praying to the back side of the cow and not necessarily the front side of the cow? They do, but they have a full puja at the back, and I've not seen this for anything else. Gau Mutra and all of that. You know, do you guys have this in North? Gau Puja. Do you have, when you have housewarming in the South, basically the cow is allowed to go into your home. Probably the only time the cow enters your home, and it is made to literally pee, urinate in the home, which is considered to be a very pavitra sort of a significance. It has to sort of like pee there. Okay, so that is that. So you must have, but you have all of this, correct? Okay, a different version of this thing you will have. You all have this during your housewarming? Is this what you have in housewarming? No? You have this? It's only South, huh? Okay. What do you guys do during your housewarming? Kya hota hai? Housewarming mein? You don't have any of this? Puja. This is not there? The milk? Oh, okay. So interesting. Okay. This is basically the function that is there for housewarming, and there is a lot of religion attached to it. Now the thing is that, you know, you have a job, okay, you've taken a loan, or probably, you know, you've earned enough money, you've actually built a home, everything is done, but you do not enter this home until you do some pujas and all. Why do you have that? Everything is ready, and that too, it depends on when can you actually go in. Okay, maybe the rent is too much, you don't want to pay, but until another 3 months ke liye, you cannot go there because it is not the right time. Why do we have to wait? Economically, it does not make much sense. For positive energy, okay, for positive energy, then anything else? There is a perspective that basically says we have religion in most societies around the world, all societies around the world, because it helps to reduce the stresses and strains and anxieties of life. Okay, for instance, I'll give you an example. You have studied everything. Anthropology, you're ready. Okay, you want to go to the exam. On the way, there is a temple or a Buddhist temple. Temple hi bolte na? Vihara. No. Okay, Vihara you call it. Okay, so you have a Buddhist monastery or you have a temple. You're walking by that. Will you stop to pray? Yeah, you're very rational that padhai to hogi. I have finished my studies. I'm going to walk straight. I don't need to do that. Kya hoga yahan pe? The most rational amongst us. Let's say that day you're under stress, you may not. The previous day you'll probably think of God. Why would you do it when you have done all your studies? You know for sure that everything ho gaya. Lakshmikant is done, spectrum is done, previous year questions done, notes done, revision done, everything is done. Why do we need God? Fear, okay, in order to reduce stress and anxieties of life. If there is somebody who's a fishing community who has to venture out into the oceans, okay, you don't know when you will come back or whether you will even come back. So you will have a god that is probably some form of, let's say, an ocean goddess or something like that. At least when I go out, ensure even if I come back empty-handed, that is fine, but let me come back alive. You have that. Why so? Even though you have the best of boats and best of nets and whatnot, you still have that small little fear and stress and anxieties of life that can basically be brought down. Do you understand this? So there are functions behind these social cultural institutions being there in societies. It is there, but it need not be the same sort of explanation for every single society. For instance, Buddhism, there might be something else that is kind of important. For all of these religions might have something else, but at the end of the day, all religion, in terms of its anthropological relevance, is the same. It provides you some sort of a relaxed or relaxation or some sort of a, what is the thing? Some sort of comfort in life. Okay. Okay, so it's not that you've not studied, but you still want to have that extra bonus of blessing from God, correct? Okay, so on and so forth. So now do you understand what is your social cultural anthropology and what will you be learning there? Okay, every one of these is basically going to introduce you to different kind of societies, different kind of practices, but take a look at the same social cultural institutions within them. Okay, next we can take a look at linguistic anthropology. What is linguistics basically? What does it deal with? Linguistics deals with language. So basically this deals with the language way, how language influences, like language aspects of man. Okay, and what do we study about that? Are all languages similar? How different are languages? Did you know Hindi before coming here? Learned it in school, so no issues whatsoever. But it's the same kind of thing. We also have a, e, e, u. Hindi also is very similar kind of thing only, right? So languages are similar? No? See, there is a language, and where is this guy probably from? If you can see the picture. Guess where he would be from. Don't look at the map. Fiji Island, Papua New Guinea, okay, then. He's from this particular group called, can you see this one particular portion? Queensland ka northernmost part. Okay, it's an Australian Aborigine. So basically a native population of Australia before all the whites and the Asians had come. So Cook Tayore, that is a particular group. There is a particular group in their language, they don't even have what is left or right. Every one of the languages. You speak Marathi, you speak Bengali, you speak Kannada, right? And the rest of you speak Hindi or some form of Hindi, correct? Okay, you have right and left. Daएं बाएं, right? What is it? What is it? Daएं बाएं, very similar. What is it? Okay. So you get the picture, you have that. Can you manage in your language without right and left? Do we need that term? Is it even required? If I have to say my right shoe or something, how do I say that in another language without saying right? No, you can say something else, but they just don't have right and left ka concept itself. So meaning, if I want to point at this particular shoe, in our language we say right leg. Daएं, correct? Daएं wala pav, is that right? Tang, jo bhi hai, right? So you basically point it like this. But what if I turn like this? Unke language mein, there is no right and left. So for them, this is basically based on the directions of the sun. This is basically east. If I turn, when I'm speaking about this thing, I am talking about, let's say, north or something. If I'm here, west, south, and so on and so forth. Can you imagine this kind of a language? These kind of groups, even kids who are like, 2 years, 3 years old, have a much better sense of direction than we probably will have. Right? Okay? So their way of thinking is influenced by the language. Okay, the language influences their way of thinking itself. So for instance, if I just ask you to close your eyes, and I ask you, which side is southwest, please point. Please close your eyes and try to point southwest. Many of you have not, and some of you have given opposite directions. Okay, I don't know which one is correct. Okay, but if it is them, they'll have a much better way of sort of saying it because they're always thinking in terms of directions. Okay, language has many different sort of aspects there. It is not just the same meanings and same syntax being translated in a different sort of a tongue. It is never the same. There are some who don't even have the concept of time. Without time, everything in our life is structured around time. And I have seen this. Okay, I had gone to, say, there's a nomadic community that had come to one of our properties, which, like, there's a farmland which nobody's using for now. And my grandfather's, after the grandfather's death, we had actually gone there, and then we saw a bunch of these nomads. They had a lot of goats, and they were, and we were trying to ask them questions. Where are you coming from? Northwest. Which way are you planning on going back? Southeast. Okay, when are you going? When did you come? After the first rains. When will you go? Everything is nothing to do with date, anything to do with what we know as, time, date, calendar, nothing of this sort. Okay, why so? Their entire life revolves around, maybe the seasons. We find this. Okay, so you will see a lot of these kind of things. Does the language have to have words? Why? Because you already mentioned sign language. Okay, do you know there are languages like this? She's whistling. A complete language made of whistling. Have you seen African Bushmen? The Gods Must Be Crazy. Have you seen that movie? 1980s car. It's a okay. Leave that. Okay. But can you see the language is about whistling? I would love to learn this language. If any of you are interested in learning a language, you probably have Spanish or French or something in mind. I think this will be kind of cool. Different kind of this. In fact, this is like a complex sentence that she's saying. There is a wolf across the hill. Look at this. Okay, my sister. Okay, so basically a term sister has a particular way of whistle. And what have you cooked today? Why do they have this particular language? Why is it so different from ours? Everything I tell you has a particular reason why. What is the reason? What could be a reason here? Look at the environment. Have you been to the hills? Have you tried to go and try to see your voice echo? If you have to talk from one hill to another hill, it becomes a lot harder and you come out with a coarse voice, right? Rather, if you whistle, you'll start seeing that it actually reaches much farther. There's always a reason why. Okay, diversity in all of these things always has a reason why. This is basically in Turkey, okay, and we have this in India as well. Do you know? There is a particular village in Meghalaya, okay, and in this particular place, you have this thing where persons name the child, based on the first kind of sounds that come when the mother is able to see the baby. And if she's very happy, she'll probably name the child with a particular kind of a tune of a voice. If she's not so happy, you get the picture, right? So there is always a tune. The first kind of tune that comes into our mind is the name of that particular child. In our India as well. So there are so many different ways, in terms of language. There is something about language, there is a lot of similarity between what we call as Sanskritic languages, the Sanskritic language families, in comparison to something, let's say, from Europe. Look at, for instance, Lithuanian language mein, see, Hindi mein we have Vayu. Lithuanians, they have Vayas, meaning the same. Deva in Hindi, Devas in Lithuanians, meaning exactly the same. Agni, Agnis. Shaka, exact same in Lithuanian and also in Hindi, branch, right? How on earth is Hindi, which is basically a South Asian sort of a language, all the way, having commonalities with something that is so far? What could be the idea there? Indo-European languages? No, but in Germany, it is not the same. Same origin. Actually, this is the whole idea. It is believed, and if we have a map here, do we have India map anywhere here? I'm not drawing it, but if I draw India map, let's say this is my India. Which way is Europe? Far away here. It is believed that maybe the ancestral population was somewhere in the middle here. There is one group of people, as you said, probably came here, and there is another small group of people who probably went all the way there and had this language still. And the resulting descendant sort of a language still having a lot of commonality. Again, a hypothesis that we're building. Okay, so in terms of language, also linguistic anthropology deals with history. It talks about different ways of languages, different types of languages, and so on. Next, we can take a look at bio. See, there is another concept that is more about evolution. We slightly touched upon this. Okay, did we all descend from ape? Chimpanzee to man, is that right? Did we come from chimpanzee to man? You must have seen this picture. And how many of you have seen this picture? Is this a chimpanzee? Is that our understanding? Is this a modern day human? Is this correct? If I say this is chimpanzee, is this correct? No? That is true. So chimpanzees are our cousins. Okay, they are very distant cousins, meaning our great-great-great-great-grandfather, okay, and their great-great-great-grandfather are the exact same. It is not that the chimpanzee have given rise to, a population that is human. Okay, so I hope that is very clear. And how did this happen? And we are still trying to, fill in the gaps here. We don't know everything about this. What he had just mentioned is that we had a common ancestor, let's say approximately 6 to 8 million years ago or 7 million years ago. One group of people who entered the savanna, the grasslands or the open area, they adapted more to a upright sort of a bipedal sort of persons, okay, 7 million years. And the others who basically stayed back in the rainforest, this is one such hypothesis, okay, and we can take a look at this in detail. And in between, there is a whole lot of people who, a different kind of species or probably even subspecies who came along the way. Who is the closest to us? If this guy is walking around in, let's say, Karol Bagh, would you be able to say? You know, and this is not too far back. This is approximately 40,000 years ago. 40,000 years in the evolutionary scheme, when you compare to 7 million years, is very recent. So this is a very recent sort of a person. Okay. So we'll take a look at this and how did we sort of colonize different places. Really interesting sort of stuff in biological anthropology. There is reason for us having different sort of variations in us. For instance, what is the difference that you see between these two people? What is the primary difference that you see? Is that the first thing that comes to your mind? Age-wise, they're the same. Sex-wise, they are the same. Height-wise, they seem to be the same. Huh? Hair. Okay. Features. What kind of features? Nose. Width of chin. Okay, so, you know, many of those morphological criteria that you're basically talking about. If you just take one such example, if it is a skin tone, is there an explanation why this person is so-and-so and this person is that color? Climate. Okay, so how does climate influence skin tone? Tropical, yes. Okay, so tropical, especially when you expose yourself to a lot of sunlight, possibly. So everybody in Rajasthan, are they much darker? You're from Rajasthan, okay. Are they very dark in Rajasthan? If this is dark, then we are talking about something else. Okay, so this is not what we are talking about. Okay, but it is correct to a certain extent. Okay, it is correct to a certain extent that the people who are better suited to that particular place, okay, these are the people who are the fittest for that particular environment. These persons in the tropical part of the world, you know, they can survive well today. Why so? They can survive well today because today life is much easier. You know, most of the day they can actually stay in these concrete buildings with AC and so on and so forth. Okay, but if you go back, you know, maybe let's say 5,000, 6,000 years ago, you have to go out hunting in the sun. Okay, a lot of skin issues, burning skin. Today, though, he can manage possibly if he has like sunscreen and so on and so forth, but us samay nahi tha. Okay, so these kind of people are a liability in the tropical region. What about these kind of people? These kind of people are better suited to that particular environment. But when they go to colder climates, they have some other issues as well. We'll talk about this. In fact, there is a hypothesis that basically says that this kind of a skin tone is very recent. It is very recent, not until Bronze Age, you know, as recent as Bronze Age in Europe. Okay, until then we were a lot more in the darker shade. In fact, you know, when this came about when there was a transition, when you saw the pictures, right? When the fur, you know, from our ancestors had started going away. Then we had exposed our skins a lot more to the sun. And that particular time period, you know, we developed a lot more of this, okay, because that was fitter for that particular environment. And this has come much recent. You get the picture? There is again many such ideas on like why. Okay, you get the picture? Then we also go into areas such as genetics. See, genetics has a lot of importance today. You understand that, right? See, for instance, if I say, you will not know who this is, Alec Jeffreys. Okay, in the 1980s, he is the one who basically came out with DNA fingerprinting. If you watched any movies recently and it is a crime thriller or something, there will be a point of time in which they say, sample, lelo. Okay, let's analyze a sample. It all began with him. Okay, so he's the major scholar who basically brought about it. And whenever you introduce a new technology, it is not getting accepted daily. There is one case study that I think we can skip, okay, or the very first case of a person who was basically caught, okay, and he was the first person. In fact, he had gone scot-free. Okay, in fact, in this particular village, they said that we have a new sort of a technology. All the males in the village who were there in the last 2 years, okay, or in that particular town in the last 2 years, please submit your sample. The people who said they will not submit the sample, there was pressure on them. If you're not submitting the sample, does that mean you are the culprit? He had made somebody else submit the sample, but finally he got caught. A big story, we'll talk about it another time. But this is the 1988, sort of the first one. Are you guys aware of this particular case that happened recently? I think the last 1 or 2 years ago, there was a murder in and it was like a all India news, right? There was a woman named Priyanka Reddy, I believe it was in Hyderabad, Shamsabad area, and you know, she had some trouble. Her two-wheeler was not working, and then it was kind of getting late in the night. I think she was a dentist, and she had a late night or something. She called her sister. I don't feel very safe. I don't have petrol. I ran out of it, and so on and so forth. But then they could not reach her. And the next morning, they actually found her body. The milkman basically found it 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, completely charred. okay, burnt. Okay. In fact, later these guys are all shot dead by the police because of popular pressure, people's pressure. And I remember this thing because in the news channels you could actually see school kids in that yellow buses going, and they're all clapping when they see any kind of police, because they, it's kind of like, they're finally, proud of the police or something like this for having shot dead these kind of people. Okay, not the rule of law. Okay, not the rule of law, not something that we would want. But if you are a policeman, okay, and you are in this, let's say you become an IPS officer or something like this, how would you crack this case? What you have actually found is that you have found a woman who's completely burnt, charred body. Okay, how would you crack this case? How would you say these are the ones who have done it? How would you say the body is of hers? Using DNA. Can we do it? Sample, what will you collect from there? Hair sample, completely charred body. Blood, completely charred body. It is like when you burn paper off, na, what do we get? Nothing. After burning, you do get DNA, especially like, see your tooth. Inside the tooth, okay, there will be those roots. Wahan se you can get it. Very, very difficult, but if you have completely charred the body, also there are some portions. But with that, you can only identify that this is this dentist. There must be a missing case, and it is the person. But how do you catch these people? In a completely charred body, especially this area, it can be completely burnt off that you will not be able to get a good enough sample to even say that these are the culprits. In fact, how these guys got caught? CCTV camera. Not DNA, but we should be able to use DNA, because in and around that sample you would still see like some sort of, if they've lost a hair, under a fingernails. But apparently it was like very well sort of like completely burnt off that probably you could not get a sample. Technology was not this thing there. But they were caught trying to buy large quantities of diesel or petrol so that they can burn the body. Okay, and that is how they were caught. But you understand, right? If you understand the bio and you understand the DNA wala this thing, you can even be a very good IPS officer. You get the picture? So that was just a very disturbing sort of incident, and how it was found not very far back. Then we have archaeology. You guys know archaeology. You've already studied archaeology. All of you have done archaeology. In archaeology, basically there are three aspects that we learn. First is how do you collect? How do you excavate? Okay. Second thing is how do you date? If you find something, let's say he found some jaw. Okay, we should be able to say, when is this jaw from? How would you do that? Okay, you need to have some dating techniques depending upon what you found. Okay, you must, and then you have to be able to create that story of that past. When you close your eyes, you should be able to say, this is what the house was like, this is what the food is like, this is what their economic ways of life. Roti, kapada, makan was gotten in so and so manner. This is basically reconstructing their past. All of these things basically come in your archaeology period. This is something that we've already studied in school, dendrochronology, right? Have you ever seen, the cross section of a tree? If you cut the tree, basically you'll be able to see this, the rings, and depending upon the width of the ring, you can even say, what kind of a year it was. When it is fat, what do you say? It has grown so much in that one particular year, meaning that there was probably a lot of nutrient availability, there's a lot of water, moisture, and so on, and sometimes it is like not the best of years. You already have like some sort of a QR code. If I find this sample and I can match it here, I know which time period to which time period. But a lot of the things that we find are much, much older. How would you find that? Carbon dating is something that we have seen in school. Okay, there is potassium argon dating just like carbon, but that is for much longer time periods. Okay, now those things as well. So we will study about all of these things. In fact, there are a lot of cave paintings that you find. You know how far back these paintings go? This particular painting, do you know at what time period it could have been? 10,000 years. Okay. Anything else? 5,000, 2,000, 30,000 years ago. Can you imagine? This cave was actually opened in the 1940s somewhere. Within about 7-8 years, it lasted 30,000 years. In 7 years or something like that, after it had opened, it had deteriorated to a great extent. Okay, so 30,000 years, and in 7 years when they opened it to public. See what happens when you go in now. A lot of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, moisture, fungus, so many of those things happen. You have to put on lights. Okay, so in fact, can you see the horse trying to almost falling over? Forget this. This is Altamira Paintings again in Spain. So you see a lot of these things. Why do you find this? Where do you find this basically? It's not like have you been to a cave? Any cave sort of this thing? Caving is actually a hobby. Have you been? Which one have you been to? In your own district? Okay. So basically when you enter the caves, right, after you enter the cave, basically there'll be like a small little hole that'll probably take you like farther down. Okay. Inside that again, you'll have to go somewhere far using like some sort of vines. Okay. And then you'll have to crawl through certain sections, and then you reach some portion that it is not visible to a common man, or nobody has the guts to go there. That is where you start finding these kind of things in there, in that cave. So they basically go to the most difficult place to go, and then they find all these kind of paintings. And what is the significance of all of these paintings? Why do you always draw animals? Everything we say has a function behind it. Why do I keep drawing these animals? Major part of their life. In fact, they believe, okay, one of the hypotheses again here is that if I draw a horse falling backwards, it possibly means that I am hoping that that is going to happen. I'm going to shoot with an arrow, okay, bow and arrow, and then I'm probably going to bring down that. And then you have like some sort of like puja and all those things going on, like magical rites, all those things they'll probably do. So there are many ideas there on like why it is there, and that only for a certain group of people, and it is done, certain times. You can actually find all of these colors being taken to the most difficult places. This is how it is today. This is how it was found when they had opened it. What did we do to it? Our own heritage, now all gone. But it's Spain, so it is better off. If it was India, you would see Ramu loves something. Have you seen all archaeological sites? Right? So you do tend to see all of those things, but our heritage is basically like still there. This is a collective sort of heritage. These are all anatomically modern humans 30,000 years ago. They're not European, they're not Indian, nothing of that sort, right? They're just humans. They're all our ancestors. See, by the way, then there is paper 2. Paper 2, I'll do it in a very short manner. See, paper 2, have you guys gone through Anthropology applied to Indian situation? Indian society is basically your paper 2. Okay, and there are many such concepts here. Generally, it is considered to be of 2 parts, or actually 3 parts. I told you, right? Archaeology and fossils, or ancient humans, okay, is there in paper 1 and paper 2. Agar India mein hai, so we basically cover those kind of concepts like Ramapithecus, Shivapithecus, Narmada man or Narmada human or Narmada lady. These are basically like ancient fossils that have been found here. When you look at the world, then you have them in Africa, you have them in Europe, you find them in Java, Peking, or China, and so on and so forth. So that is one thing. So you have fossils, archaeology also, lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic, right? All of those. Then you have the major chunk, 90% of your paper is going to be, your Indian society, which we've already, and I'll give you some ideas on like the kind of concepts that are provided by our anthropological scholars that we can utilize in order to study our society better. One good example, Sanskritization. You study this in NCERT, most of you would have already seen it if you've studied it, but what exactly does it mean? Okay, Sanskritization, Westernization, dominant caste, Jajmani system, great. And then, can you give me some more examples? There are some other ones, little tradition, great tradition, NCERT mein hai, huh? Parochialization, universalization, these are all kind of like, there are only very few terms. Okay, paper 2 is like something that is very short. Okay, but if you understand really the essence of it, you can answer many, many different kind of questions. Very, very highly scoring subject. Okay, highly. In fact, like even if you've not studied much, okay, if you just focus on your paper 2 and go to the exam, you can do a lot better. Okay, paper 1 mein, you have to do a little bit of preparation because, that is required. Tribal society. It is part of Indian society, but particularly you have to emphasize on the tribal society. If you go to Africa, okay, so if you go to Australia, you have the native Australian society. They are called the Australian Aborigines. Okay, to a great extent, there is similarities amongst themselves. But if you look at the tribes of India, there is not much of commonalities. What would you, if I say tribals, what would you say about tribals? Can you just characterize them? What are they like? Adivasis, tribals, scheduled tribes. How would do you have an idea? Have you seen them? Have you met them? Do you know their culture? What do you know about tribals? Forest dwellers, okay. Most of the tribals come from, they are forest dwelling communities. Okay, great. That is an important point, okay, because forests and tribals, they have a very symbiotic sort of relationship. Forests mean everything to them. Unka stories, their folk tales, everything revolves around the forest because that is their world. Okay, outside the forest is where outsiders live to them. Hamare liye kya hota hai? Okay, generally I'm guessing that, non-tribals ke liye, it'll be like, there are people inside the forest, outsiders. We have that sort of picture. In group, out group, wala thing. For them, outside the forest also there are people, bad people, maybe. Any other thing about tribals? Are they highly developed? different culture, they have different traditions. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so the okay, so mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Perfect. He's given a very good sort of an explanation. Yes, you also wanted to say something. Separation from the mainstream society. Okay, by choice. We don't know. Okay, great. Are the tribals highly developed, education-wise, health? That is true. We might say that tribals are like not doing so well, but the state that has the highest literacy, Kerala, and then Mizoram. So the tribals are one of the most educated people in the country, right? So those tribals, Mizoram, probably are thinking that uneducated people in the mainstream, as you said. Okay, so there are no one kind of tribes. There are tribals who probably don't even have any sort of script. There are tribals in Andaman and Nicobar, and we'll take a look at this thing. Okay, so this is another one. How do we sort of apply anthropological concepts in order to help in bettering the people as a whole? Okay, that is your your paper two's focus. Now take a look at this. Why do we have these analytical concepts being given in your anthropology paper 2, Indian society, in order to understand that? In order to understand Indian society, first of all, we have to have some idea of like what is Indian society like, what is the historical sort of perspective on Indian society. You must know what is this? Is this Varna, caste, whole lot of things that you must have seen, some sort of a thing, right? So what is this Brahmin? If I say Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, okay, and the ex untouchables, we don't want to call them untouchables anymore, right? Because today, they are the current president and the new president basically are all part outside of this particular group, right? So they're all doing well. Now, what is this? Is this Varna or is this caste? This is Varna. Why so? Huh? This is in the theory model, exactly. This is the theory model. This is the ideal sort of a model which has been written. Okay, so you're saying that this is basically, this is how. So if you ask a person what is your Varna, extra the Brahmins, many will not be able to clearly delineate I belong where exactly. But for sure, they will know what is their caste. Correct? They will know exactly what is their caste. Some will believe that I am of this particular caste. I would be partly Kshatriya, partly Vaishya. You get the picture. What if you're an agriculturist? Where do you belong? Okay, there are many of these things, but in order to understand, we have to have a very clear sort of an idea of like what made them belong to this first four, what exactly makes these people sort of not belong to this four, and who are these people exactly? Is this the they're not part of the Varna system. They are Panchamas, exactly. Okay, great. So you have the four Varnas and then you have another group called the Panchamas. Okay, even within the Panchamas, there are scholars. Gore basically says, amongst the Panchamas, there used to be two different kinds of people, Chandalas and Nishadas. Okay, Nishadas was spoken okay by the Aryans who believed in this kind of a categorization, but then the Chandalas, they were not too happy because probably the Nishadas were okay in accepting this Aryan way of life, understanding what it is, and so on and so forth. But Varna is basically color. Initially, it became, it was that, the persons who were coming from the other side, maybe the Aryans or so, okay, they had a particular color, and then they had another color with the local inhabitants, which is the Dasas. This basically expanded to like four different ones. So there are many concepts that go into basically elaborating this and saying this becomes more of the bookish view. But if you go to the field, you understand everything through caste. As we call it, most places, it is called Jati. Correct? You guys all call it Jati, right? So what is that Jati? Now, one of the major scholars, and this is a scholar not only in India, this is a scholar literally, around the world. Everybody would know M.N. Srinivas. So he's one of the major scholars in our field, and I've decided to talk about him specifically today. So take a look at him. This is when he was very young and dashing. Okay, this is when he's a scholarly, veteran, right? You can watch him on YouTube in case anybody's interested. He brings this idea of this concept called dominant caste. Yeah, what is dominant caste? Exactly. So you were also wanting to say something. They have control over that area. What political kind of control? Space and time. Okay. Strength lies in numbers. Okay. So you become dominant with numbers. Okay, great. And then dominance based on availability of government jobs. Okay, great. Okay, great. See, who is dominant here? Brahmins. Okay. The Brahmin basically says, I am at the top of the model. Will a Kshatriya accept it? I am in charge of this entire land. In that land, I've given you a temple where you can be the priest there. Okay, I am the actual dominant person. A Kshatriya will say that. Vaishya, Arya, it is not about like, you doing puja or something like this. At the end of the day, money talks. Who really is the big deal? Who's the big person in the country? Tata Birla, पिछले ज़माने में, our parental generation. Today, Ambani, Adani. I think today there was a news that Adani has basically crossed Bill Gates, right? So, do you think they will accept that they are the third one in the list? They also gave preference to the Brahmins because they were educated. You needed like local. So you get the picture. So there is no clear wala this thing. But in order for you to have call something as the dominant caste, you should basically base it on some specific factors. You basically mentioned numbers. Okay, strength in numbers. This is a chart I teach in Bangalore. Okay, so I cater to the Bangalore kind of this thing, so you can connect it. I teach in Hyderabad as well. I'll give you some examples. There are two castes there that not even more than 15% of the population. Two castes in the population. Two castes, that's it. No caste. How many castes will be there? Hundreds of castes. Two castes, basically, this MLC election, members of legislative council election में, two castes, 31 and 34.78. 65% of them from two castes have been appointed as the members of legislative councils. They are the dominant ones. They are neither Kshatriya, they are not the Brahmins. They are Lingayat and something called Vokkaliga or Gaudas. M.N. Srinivas talks about the Vokkaligas. So that is an example that we have to all understand that. Okay, two castes, can you believe this? And I'm sure, and this is not very surprising to you because every one of your states has this story. It's the same story. It is 2 to 3 castes that are actually leading the road. This is basically from Andhra Pradesh. If you look at it from independence time, okay, since they formed Madras states, they formed these states, okay, there was maybe one Brahmin, one sort of Dalit, but not a popularly elected for a short little period. Every one of them is basically a Reddy, or there is another caste, these Rao guys, right? They belong to another caste called Kamma Naidu. Can you believe 2 castes? Put together, they'll be 12% of the population. How on earth, without, having enough numbers, how are all the chief ministers since independence belonging to 2 major groups only? You have this in your state. What are they? Who are they? Is not majority of the caste. Okay, so who is the CM now? Who are the politically sort of Mali community? Mali is the gardener. Okay. Okay. But who are the dominant groups? Jat. So Jats are generally popular, very dominant, especially in Western UP region, right? They are maybe even Delhi region. I'm not sure. Okay. Haryana. Okay. Rajasthan, and I'm guessing it is mostly Western Rajasthan. Okay, great. In which other state do you guys have? Lingayat, Vokkaliga. North Karnataka, Lingayat. South Karnataka, Vokkaliga. Okay, great. Any other state? Is not a? See, Hindu, Christian, Muslims, they all have castes in India. Even in fact, so India, that is the thing. Okay, caste is not a Hindu thing. Okay, he's a Christian, converted Christian, but that does not matter. He's a Reddy. We accept him because he's a Reddy. You get the picture. So caste basically is a little higher than even religion. You have to understand these sort of aspects. And this is true in every single state. Okay, not every single state. Bengal mein aisa hai? No, it is not there. Okay, very well reformed sort of this thing. Even in Kerala, you don't have that to a great extent. There are dominant groups, but entire political power is not captured, with a couple of castes. But what exactly is it making these castes with very little in numbers, what is their ability? What gives them the ability to sort of hold on to political power? Not only political power, movie industry, economic power. Okay, land ownership, everything is very high when it comes to these groups. What exactly is it that? Okay, we'll try to take a look at this thing. See, 12%, can you believe it? If you are an administrator, you become IAS, posted in that particular place. Go back to the 1950s and 60s, yeah. If you're in the 50s and 60s, you've been given 100 crores. Sadak, Bijli, and what else? Maybe irrigation. You've given limited budget. Budget is not unlimited. If you have to go to that particular place and say that we are doing this, okay, who are the local members who are present there who will probably help you sort of get this thing done? They're like, this particular place to this particular place in the village is the main area. How about we lay roads here? Whose homes ke samne they will lay roads? If 100 crores are there, limited budget is there, and only the sarpanch and all those guys will decide, where will it go? Dominant caste homes only. And dominant caste groups still today in many places, inke ghar ke samne, in front of their homes, okay, there are only certain groups that can go. Some are not allowed in that particular area. If it is electricity, and before this entire scheme of like Har Ghar Bijli, right? And even if you understand now, completely electrified, see, the first completely electrified district was my district. Okay, and this was 2008-ish or so. Completely electrified does not mean every home has that. 10% homes have to have it. Important public buildings will have to have it. In every part, even the most far-flung areas in that particular village, they should have it. That is still a big deal. But if you have 10% of the villages being electrified, whose villages or whose homes will it be? You understand, na? They'll probably say that this is the place to probably do this thing. Irrigation, and this was also an important issue. Irrigation canals that were basically set up and invested in, okay, all of them basically catered to one place. In front of, in the farms of the members who had land belonging to the dominant caste. So you understand, without understanding of this, if somebody, let's say from outside the villages of India, comes to sort of wanting to do good, even if you want to do good, you might end up doing bad. You might actually end up exacerbating the inequality levels. You get the picture? So us, in order to understand how to sort of do our programs and ensure that there is good welfare that is being delivered to the people, you've got to understand these sort of concepts. It has happened. It happens even now. You know, I'll give you an example. In the last few years, we've had this new program that is coming in. Odisha mein, there is Kalia. In Telangana, you have, I forget what is the group, PM Kisan. Okay, in order for you to get that 2,000 rupees per month or 8,000 rupees in some states, you know, all of these, 6,000 per season or something, no? 6,000 per the entire year. Okay, so many states also have this thing. For all of these things, who's getting this money? The person who can actually show the papers of land. You get the picture? Who is the one who requires help amongst the agricultural community? The landless laborers or the people who have very little. But then what we have done is that we've given the amount, the more the land you have, the more money you get. A lot of the times, it is not those people who are even cultivating it. Who gets the money? Not the tenant who's actually cultivating that particular land. Somebody else who's just given it on lease. You get the picture? So unless we understand this entire dynamics, we are actually putting money in the wrong sort of hands. Or at least even if you're giving it there, if I am a landless laborer, I also need help. Correct? And India, you know, the land ownership is like so skewed. There are so many people without land or very little land. They're not getting any benefit from the government, and the government is saying, I want to do good for the agricultural community because, you know, the growth rate is very little, productivity is very little, but we are not getting the benefits out of it. You get the picture? Understanding these sort of concepts will probably help you a lot better in terms of delivering. And if you are going to interview, trust me, you will be asked questions on these sort of angles. I have not seen almost every mock interview in fact interview maybe they will ask you about tribes, about these kind of concepts, and what is your perspective on it. Tribal India I have told you, right? So they'll be applied this thing, but also to understand the tribal diversity. For instance, which place? Africa. Actually, they are Indians too. There are 4 tribes in Andaman, okay, and there used to be 5, okay, and there used to be like, in fact, like 10, okay, and the last, since the British sort of invasion, you know, we've started seeing a lot of numbers come down. In fact, I believe this is Onge numbers we've seen drop from 627 or something in 1901 to, you know, like 100 now, okay. They have their own way of life, okay, but there's culture change that is coming in. They're also Indians. They're also part of the tribes, okay. What about this? Very famous picture. Who are they? What is that person trying to do? He wants to shoot down the helicopter. There was a group that basically there was a person named Alan Chow who had gone there last 3, 4, 5 years ago, in which he went to that island. We have a no contact policy here. There are only 39 people in that particular place, and this was a question that was asked to me in my interview as well. Alan Chow, should he have gone to that particular place? Because they shot him dead. Okay, he took his the Christianity, the Bible. He was a missionary activist, and he went there to sort of bring the gospel of God or something like that he believed in. Okay, they basically probably want him, but they shot him dead and left the body out in the open. They're part of India, right? Should they be brought to book? Should we put them in jail? What should we do? Let them be. But then, I'll ask you the question that they asked me as well, okay, interview. But shouldn't we give education, health, all the kind of programs that you and I get for free? Or at least we take for granted? Shouldn't we sort of expose them to all of those things and, imagine that they're also here, sitting along with you, trying to become an IAS or, having a stethoscopes around their neck and being a doctor? No? They're living a happy life, I guess. They have little in their life, or we don't know. They are very happy, possibly the Zen way of life, as they call it. We don't know. But what should we do here? There is a no contact policy. We're not expected to go there because they have been living alone by themselves 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 years, that they don't have the kind of immunity to the kind of germs that we carry. Huh? Even for a common cold or something, we go possibly shake hands with them or something like that. Next thing you know is that there is a mass epidemic. How many vaccinations do we get when you're a child, right? We don't have it, but we have small little thing that we carry. What if we take them and entire civilization is going to be gone? Okay, in Native Americans, the immigrants basically did very bad things to them. In fact, they decided not to fight them, but they sold them blankets. In that blankets, they had it infested with smallpox or something. Millions died. Millions perished without a fight. Okay, because they live close by, they help each other, and smallpox, you have to sort of keep them isolated. They don't know exactly how to deal with this thing. Entire groups just vanished, Native Americans. Okay. The Chinchus trying to hunt. Gonds, one of the bigger sort of tribes. Okay, Gonds, and there are many different types of Gonds. Look at this. Gond is also a language. The president-elect, okay, Madam, what is her name? Draupadi Murmu, right? What tribe does she belong to? Santhal. Okay, Santhal. Okay, there are three important sort of large tribes. Okay, Bheels. Okay, they are part of the western portion. Okay, then you have, did I pronounce it right? Bheel. Correct only, right? Bheel. Okay, Santhals. Okay, and Gonds. So this is one of them. In fact, look at the hairstyle. They have some sort of a ponytail on the left-hand side. They wear something on their neck. Their own sort of fashion. Okay, so we study a lot about their religion, their culture, their ways of marriage. Then we have racial groups that are more like this. Mongoloid groups, the Garo of Meghalaya, and this is a famous picture. Who are they? The Todas. In fact, there was a question in 2018 or something like this, Putukuli. That is the name of this blanket. The match the following in your prelims belongs to which state or which group or something like this. That is that Putukuli blanket. Wherever you see them, you basically have them seeing this. Does that kind of make sense? So this is what is your anthropology. And I hope that you've actually gotten a decent perspective of what is anthropology. See, in my opinion, right, I always feel the most important thing for you to make your decision is to understand what the syllabus entails. Okay, because you would probably know, see, the scores and the benefits. I don't have to point that out to you. You would have Googled it yourself. You're sitting here probably because you're looking at the score. But you probably have not had an idea of what is the subject. What are the different modules in the subject? I had to explore it my way. See, I did not go for coaching. I did not have that time. I had a different sort of a journey. I was working. And I sort of, found this thing myself. Okay, but for you, when you have to take a call with your mains 2023, or your UPSC 2023 here, I'm only trying to see if I can help you decide your option. Okay, so this is what the subject entails, a little bit of many different subjects. Can you see this hut? Have you seen this in the other picture, where she took a picture where she's not supposed to be? Whom do we see here, males or females? Okay, so, can you see this small little door? tiny wala door, no window wala this thing, you have to go inside, and there are certain like stratification within this, like sacred dairy will be there. In the dairy area, women are not even allowed to be anywhere close to it. There are some like cultural sort of specifics about this. Okay, there was a recent movie about a tribe named Irula. Okay, and this is a South Indian movie, but this was made in Hindi as well, and this particular group is known to have rat meat in the diet. There is in Bihar, there's a particular group called the Muzahir. Okay, they're also considered to be quote unquote the Mahadalits, and they also, why do they have this? Why is rat meat so important, or why would you even have it, right? So basically, it is because of lack of availability of animal protein, and there are many things that we have to understand about the tribal groups of India. Okay, so rural development, tribal development, and so on and so forth. So this is all about the subject. I hope you got a decent perspective about this. There are some things that you had asked me as questions. I can also take those. Do you guys have any questions personally? Okay, let me just make a note. Okay, any other question? Anything else? Anything else? No questions. Okay. That is the biggest concern. Okay. Anything else? Feel free to ask. This is your time, because at the end of the day, just make the right call. Just try to make the right call, because you, regardless of which subject that you choose, you're going to spend a good amount of time. And I'll tell you, there are many good questions. Okay, first thing is current affairs. See, what percent of your questions are from current affairs? Generally, it is 0. You understand? You ask me the question, what percent of the questions are actually from current affairs? Actually, it is 0. The questions are about anthropology. It is your ability to sort of connect this to current affairs. I connected this to some things. If you see, what are the things that I connected to current affairs? When I talked about DNA fingerprinting, I brought you that Dr. Priyanka, the dentist. Okay, and I connected that with that. When we talked about, let's say, some other tribals, I brought in Irulas and a movie regarding this thing. Okay, when we talk about, let us say, dominant caste, okay, and land ownership patterns and all of that, I also tried to bring in government programs they're possibly not targeting rightly, mistargeting. What else did we talk about that is more connecting it to current affairs? President election. So you understand, anthropology is a study of us. Everything that we read today, okay, in the last 1 week also, if you read newspaper, you will actually be able to connect so many things to it. Okay, I connected it to things that my students see around them. 2 castes basically holding on to power, just being 12% of the population. Why? How? Okay, the other one, 67% of the MLC seat, 65% of the MLC seat. Everything has some relevance. When you read this, after having studied anthropology, or when reading your anthropology, everything feels like there is something connected to it. Always. Okay, so you can incorporate that into your answer. They're now going to ask you specifically on that particular question. Does that make sense? So there is a very clear distinction here. They're not asking you a question on current affairs. They're asking you a question on anthropology. It is your ability to connect what you read in anthropology to what we see around us. The examples that I've given you, every single day, 1 week you read news, you'll get all of these things. You will be able to connect all of these things. So that is why it is a very current sort of a subject also, while it is subject of the past as well. You can connect everything you want. Okay, there is no specific marks for having a connection to current affairs, but when you connect it to current affairs, it is evident that you not only have studied, but you're also able to connect what you've studied to what you see around you. Okay, that makes a lot better sort of an impression. Okay, so that is about current affairs. And you had asked, how do you cover the current affairs? So how do you cover current affairs? I've introduced some subjects, some topics to you. In the last 1 week, 10 days or something like that, when you start reading newspaper, or in the next 10 days when you read it, try to see how many of these things you're able to connect to the things that we have seen. You will be surprised on how many things you will be able to connect. So a lot of people are like, I need some case studies or something like this. Case studies and all, it's not difficult to mine at all. Every single day you will be getting things there. Okay, even a little bit of this thing, if you apply in your paper in a few of the questions, you can again make yourself, or make your paper stand out. Okay, it is a very easy sort of a thing to do. Okay, there are many things that you'll be able to connect. At least the way we cover it in this one. Now, I don't want to go very theoretical. Okay, anthropological perspectives are what are they asking? Okay, and it is very interesting on how people have come out with these anthropological perspectives. There'll be a very simple question. Religion and magic is a question. You get the picture? Religion and magic, okay, I can write anything about it even without knowing anthropology. But the question is about what are the anthropological perspectives on religion? What are the, you get the picture? Dominant caste. You can write so many things on dominant caste, but what are the perspectives? Okay, and how does it sort of apply then when M.N. Srinivas studied it? How does it apply today? You get the picture? You can sort of incorporate many of these things. So anthropology mein there are very little space and so many things that we want to say. So many things that you have to say. You have with you to say, but itna space nahi milta hai. Because you can connect it so easily. Or at least the way we do it in class. Okay, the next question that you talked, did I answer your question? Huh. Yeah, I'm coming to it. So negatives about the subject, demerits. What would be the demerits of this particular subject? You need to have a good comparison, with some other subjects to be able to say what are the demerits. I don't know if this is a demerit here. Like, see, for instance, I felt a challenge in my preparation. That is, I did not, so I have time to read because Merekona, I had to study in the morning. I used to have 3:45 ka alarm in the morning, 4 o'clock, 3:45 I'll get up. And I used to have, raat mein, I will have my, I had a bucket where water is filled. Okay, I have already kept that under the socket, and I have a what do you call that? That immersion rod wala thing, old school. Okay, no geyser also at that particular point. It is already set. All I have to do is 3:45. I have to get up, switch it on, come back and sleep. Next alarm at 4 o'clock. If I don't wake up at 4 o'clock, it'll melt. I did that all the way till breakfast. That is the only time that I have. After that, I go to office. I felt that was enough. But one thing that I did not have time enough, if I look back at it, is that I did not have time to write. Okay, I did not have time to write. Sometimes you go a little too much in depth because then you realize that what you have is not something that you can write very easily in 2 pages. You need like 4 pages, 5 pages, something like this. So unless you also read but also write, you will not know how broad are you going or how much in depth are you going. Okay, uske liye kya chahiye? It requires you to put some time in to write daily assignments. And that is how I do the class. When we finish a particular topic, we should always try to take some questions, easy, moderate related questions, right after the class. You do that as an assignment. Bring it to me. I will give you the kind of feedback that I can. Okay, we'll have to see, because I don't want you to think that there is only one right answer in anthropology. Aisa hai nahi. It is not mathematics. How do you explain dominant caste is completely up to you. The only thing that I would say is in the first, let's say 25% of the paper should talk about M.N. Srinivas and his sort of criteria that defines what is dominant caste. The rest of it is up to you. If you write the exact same thing that everybody else is writing, then you don't have any uniqueness. Meaning, it is very difficult for you to persuade or sort of like request the evaluator that you have to give me 2 to 3 marks extra in comparison to everybody else. How can we do that if you write the same thing that others are doing? So you understand? So a little bit of daily writing, I think, helps a lot. Okay, and once you do that, towards the end of the course, you'll feel like I have handled every part of the subject by myself. At least I've written on it once. Okay, and if possible, like, maybe in the next session or something, I'll try to bring some of my students, like the effort is like, there'll be class notes, okay, and like handouts. That's how we do it here. But at the same time, you walk away at the end of your course with itna handwritten. Now, this is not something that I make it mandatory, but I really tell them it is mandatory. Okay, because I don't know your schedule. For a lot of the students, you have this one in the morning, that one in the afternoon, this is in the evening, and so on and so forth. So maybe it is like too difficult for you. But I would suggest that, every single answer that you write, I will give you feedback. Okay, if you can do it weekly, where I teach, we have weekly tests right from the very first week. Okay, just to get you over that fear. Because it is not that you don't know. It is just that, coming and writing for a whole like 2 hours or 3 hours, it scares the, thing out of you. Right? So when you do that, I think that is how you probably would conquer that kind of issue. Because we may not be very natural to, we might be good at writing, but UPSC sort of answers are very different. You are actually not becoming not only an expert in anthropology, you're also becoming an expert in 150 words, 250 words, and 350 words. If you're in a different kind of profession, you have to be an expert in 140 words. If you're a journalist or something. Now I guess it is 280, Twitter. Right? You get the picture. If you're a headliner, an article has to have a headline. So you have to get better at what is the demand of that particular exam. I found that kind of challenging. I don't have the speed. I don't have that, requisite sort of presentation. There are some who are very, very talented when it comes to that. With a little bit of content, they can actually make the paper stand out to a great extent. Okay, if it is not coming naturally to you, what do? Practice. One thing that we have is time. 1 year's time we have. So by then we have to get there. What is the basic approach for the subject? Do you have to be good in biology? See, I did not have biology after 10th, but I was kind of interested. You know, there was a Bharat Ratna, CNR Rao, right? So he had gotten the PhD in the same university that I had done my bachelor's degree. And I remember him saying once that, you know, a lot of the advancements in physics is kind of limited now. Most of it is actually happening in chemistry and biology. Chemistry, why? You know, because of pharmaceutical companies. Okay, in biology, but biology, mein, life science, even if it is not the most useful this thing, you will still have a lot of room for exploring that, because biology is also constantly evolving. So I took an interest in reading biology and trying to get to know biology. There is a clear difference between what is biology, and I'll just try to make this very simple. See, there is bio. Some of my students who have struggled with bio, and I'll tell you, and biological anthro. And let's say there are another group of people here. See, these are the basics of the subjects. This is bio. Okay? But we are not actually in biology. We are in biological anthropology. What is anthropology? Aspects related to man. So we are basically dealing with significance or relevance or benefits or applications. There are some students who are in the current test series program who are writing mains this year. In the previous year, approximately around 290 marks, which is considered to be good marks, correct? Paper 1, 155 plus, which is like absolutely great kind of scores, okay? And I've noticed, and you know, biological anthropology paper or biology test, it doesn't even look like a bio paper. When I'm like struggling to look at it, I just opened it, scrolled through it, and I didn't even realize that's a bio paper. I was like, have you submitted bio? Yes, I have. Because, and I would try to say, you know, 1/3 of your paper should be biology, the rest of it should be, you know, significance and relevance and benefits and applications of this to your evaluator. Okay, for them, it is even like most of it is here. Okay, they do a very good job here. So you have basically understood that it is not the bio exactly, it is how that bio really matters to humanity. And this is where you have your people. You get the picture? So think of this as role playing. This, you know, they do a great work. For instance, these are the lab coats. White coat. Okay, during COVID time, you must have seen many of these scientists doing like cutting edge work. Okay, they are them. When they speak to their peers. They're very technical in nature. This group is not communicating there. This is a different sort of a role that you have to play. And what is the role that you play here? You're basically, think of yourself as, and I generally say this, you have to think of yourself as an anthropologist, an expert opinion being invited to a news channel. Okay, have you seen news channel debates? If you are going in as a spokesperson for a party, regardless of what the point is, you've got to defend your party. Correct? If I'm an activist, regardless of what has happened, I don't care. I'm going to go against, you know, I'm going to support the underdog. Okay, but you are going as an anthropologist, an expert opinion on anthropology. So what you speak, basically it is about connecting the topics to anthropological concepts and saying that kind of perspective. Okay, you should be able to, if there is biology, see, for instance, we said in South India, we have this concept of cross-cousin marriages and you have uncle-niece marriages. Does that have any biological relevance? There are social and cultural aspects that also have biological relevance. Okay, meaning inbreeding, closely related people getting married to each other actually produce offspring that are not the healthiest. Okay, that is an aspect more important than, you know, just saying that the genes and alleles and so on and so forth. Do you get the picture? So when we say biology, biology is only there to a certain extent. The rest of it is actually biological anthropology, application of anything that we learn to humanity. If that helps, that is your biological anthropology answer. This is not your answer. Mitosis and meiosis we must have studied in our school days. Okay, if you're writing 2 pages on just mitosis and meiosis with diagrams and all of that, that is your bio answer, not necessarily this answer. So you have to understand the same things could be asked in, let's say, medicine, hereditary diseases, where you talk more about treatment. It might be asked in biology, where you talk about the mechanics of how it happens. If it is asked in biological anthropology, what is the relevance? It is basically answering the fact, so what? Bio hai to so what? So what to us? We don't care about the biology. Tell me what about it. You get the picture? So that is what it is. So you don't have anything to worry about biology. Biology is, and it is kind of interesting. You have to understand the foundation. You have to understand the genetics. It's kind of cool, but the rest of your answer will be constructed in this sphere, not so much in this sphere. That is with regard to bio. Any other sort of questions you had with regard to approach? How to approach a good answer? What will be the questions? See, for instance, now, if you look at your paper 2, apart from those 7-8 questions that are more about tribe, let's say dominant caste, Sanskritization, Westernization, these kind of questions are like, theoretical. Okay, there are concepts there. The rest of it will not differ so much from your GS kind of questions. Okay, but you have to utilize the same thing. For instance, if you're talking about the village system, you're talking about Jajmani system and how that is sort of changing. So your answer basically has just a few components. What is the village system? Who studied it? What is the Jajmani system? Like, what is exactly how it was? What are the factors of change that are coming in? Okay, for instance, they say, do you guys know what is Yajman? Jajman? Okay, do you guys know what it is? There used to be this dominant caste member who had all the land, and there were others who were dependent on this particular land. Now, this system has changed. They did not pay their employees. At the end of the harvest, the produce is basically given to them, and instead you will probably give me, what is it, like shaving services, or you will give me like smith, what is that, goldsmith and blacksmith and so on and so forth. What cost changes? There are ideas, there are factors of change that have come, industrialization, urbanization, there are minimum wage laws, right? So many things that have come about. And then basically you talk about like, where are we going with this? Okay, what is the direction in this one? So you'll probably bring these things, you will probably bring in like some sort of current elements to it. But the answer to most of these questions are basically what are anthropological perspectives on it. A question on dominant caste is basically asking you many things, but primarily it is asking you what are the anthropological perspectives on it. He has basically given the dominant caste. But who's the Jat? You said Jat? Jat in Rajasthan, okay? Jat and Rajputs, okay. Is every Rajput, dominant in Rajasthan? Is every Jat dominant in Rajasthan? It cannot be. There are exceptions to that, but instead of you giving that exception yourself, there are scholars saying it is not only dominant caste, it cannot be dominant caste, it is only dominant individuals within a caste. The rest are only thinking that, mere log baithe hain wahan pe, but I am not dominant. It is only mere log, somebody. You get the picture? So basically it is giving the perspectives, but it all will make sense. It is very logical. Okay, now this is basically social and cultural anthropology. Paper 2 is basically about like understanding how administration works. How do you basically bring about improvements? For instance, Niyamgiri mein, there is a particular tribe, Niyamgiri tribes, do you guys know? They basically, they fought in court, and they're very, very sort of quote unquote primitive sort of a tribe. They fought against a project that is 50,000 crores or 70,000 crores. And they decided to just keep their land. Everybody has a price. Everybody has a price. That is what businesses thought. They don't have a price. They're like, whatever happens, I don't want to give up those places because my spirits live there. You get the picture? So that is a basic concept. You can't just do, land acquisition in tribal area. When my spirits live there, my entire generation, how much ever money it gets, I am cursed. How do you understand that perspective? They have given us concepts to understand this. Nature, man, spirit, they stay in a state of like some sort of an equilibrium. Ability to answer a question that is kind of generic by using anthropological terms and concepts and scholarly perspectives in order to answer that is a good answer. And this is a skill that is very easy to develop. If you really think that I'm not going to mug up, I'm only going to apply. I'm going to understand and I'm going to apply. If you do this from the day one of your class, trust me, your answers will already stand out. Okay, there is a conception that anthropology mein padhne ke liye bahut hai, to remember many things. Actually, I have never felt that. If you're doing that, then I think there is something fundamentally wrong with the way you're approaching it. You can do that if you are like, your mental capacity is like a lot, both, you can remember so many things. Mere ko nahi hai wo. I know for sure that I don't have that kind of memory. So I find it working, something that works for me is understand, apply, express yourself. Utna room hai. It is not so this thing that, aisa hi likhna hai, this is the only right good answer. Depending upon different things. If it is biological anthropology, there is like one small chunk of biology in your paper and the rest of it should revolve around many of these sort of dimensions. If I say DNA fingerprinting, you probably try to understand these sort of elements. Is it happening somewhere? How does it possibly help? Does it, you get the picture? If you can interconnect concepts from your paper 1 to paper 2 and paper 2 concepts and paper 2 sort of examples to your paper 1, that is also going to fetch you extreme rewards. Something that is generally missing Because you think of it as like this is one particular subject and this one particular subject. You never interconnect these ideas. Okay, you have to understand paper 2 is basically India, okay, studied from that lens. So you have to take a look at it from that particular lens. You can easily interconnect. You get the picture? So there are many things that happen. So I will tell you like exactly like what is a good answer for biological anthropology. How would I basically approach that? What would be a good answer for sociocultural anthropology, tribal, Indian society? How would you try to take how do you take on difficult questions in paper? I always believe, and this is true for most optionals, I believe so, that when the paper is very easy, it is difficult to score. It sounds non-intuitive. When the paper is very, very easy, usme you cannot come out and say 100%, you cannot say that you have done absolute best. This is all relative. You get the picture? You will get that 270, 280, usse upar nahi jayega. I've had that. It happened to me. Unless there are questions in which I can really show my true potential, or there are questions that literally ask me to basically, give me that room to sort of express, we cannot reach that 300. You're getting the point? Okay, so you have to hope that, I am really good when it comes to anthropology. You will get there to that particular point. And then you should say that, it should not be very easy pedestrian sort of questions, because then everybody who is not even, of my caliber will write the same thing in those 2 pages and then come. Okay, but still, you've got to be prepared for everything. But even an easy paper, you've got to have something that basically makes you stand out. All students do this. Many of my good students, they have found their own ways on like how they differentiate themselves. It could be in presentation, it could be in their structure, it could be in just having a very impactful conclusion. I've seen people who just have a very good solid conclusion as their main strength and still are able to score 290 and they're in service. Rest of the answer is very, very simple. There is nothing much to it at all. But when you read that conclusion every single time, you feel like, wow, nice. That's it. You get the picture, because, at the end of the day, what is the last thing you read before giving marks? Okay, conclusion. Okay, and the conclusion speaks to you. Okay, there are many things that actually help you score good on this particular paper. So current affairs, it is there. It is up to us to use, and I think it helps to use that. In terms of demerits, one of the things that I felt was, your ability to sort of, I have a very bad handwriting also, so writing is, if it's like laptop wise writing, it is like, I'm like very quick. But I'm sure that you will have your own sort of difficulties as well. But it is a very small subject that is kind of good. Approach wise in bio, I told you how do you craft some good answers and so on. Generally, the persons I've seen who come into this particular course, it's not initially there are some people who are like very good, because that's a particular module that they're very comfortable with. But eventually what I've noticed is that the ones who started off not so great, but realize that they have to put in some effort just to get to the other people's level, they are the ones who end the course at a much better level. Towards the end of the course, there are a lot of people who can guarantee themselves, at least I'm at a 260, 280 level. Agar if I can memorize these things, if I can study this, if I do this one particular module ka ek aur revision, I can even be 300, 310, 320. There are many such students. Okay, and that is only because till the end they develop that ability that every single day class mein jo hai 2 ghante ke liye I have to go and read. I will just try to ensure that every assignment that is given to me on a daily basis, all the assignments will be previous year questions. Okay, I think those are like our Bible, right? We have to be able to do that. Okay, and second thing is every week take that fear out. On Saturday or Sunday, just write a test, even if it is by sitting in your library. Take that fear out and just try to express, because once you try to express, words will flow, because ideas will be there. Okay. Any other sort of questions? Anthropology ke liye 3.5 months. So that will be what, 14 weeks? 14 weeks, around 4 days a week. It's actually not a long syllabus. Okay. I'll have to ask them the timing. Generally, it is 3-hour classes here. Are you guys forum students? Test series. Okay. Generally, it will be like 3-hour classes, 2.5 generally. Okay. For which we start, the pattern will be like this. Firstly, we'll start with a quiz from the previous class. It'll be like fun quiz. Probably like from what I've asked you, I'll probably ask you, you remember there was a particular tribe that was holding the bow and arrow. Which tribe is it? Where is it from? Things like this, okay? Something to basically just rev your mind up. And second thing is that we'll have a quick recap of what we have covered the previous session. Point number 2. Okay, and then we basically get started with the session. And once we get started with the session, I will, towards the end, I'll basically discuss the questions that have been assigned the previous week. Okay, whoever sends me the questions, okay, I will probably discuss like some of the good questions. Okay, I'll also give you questions from some of my really good students, okay, who are like, you know, the 300 sort of range. What have they done separately? What have they done differently? Okay, what are the ideas that you can take back and implement in your assignments? Okay, Saturday, Sunday there will be like one test, and generally I'll bring it on Monday. You know, I'm actually very curious to see like how my students have done, because you know, see, you know, Delhi mein bahut bada classes and all of those things are there, but you know, where I teach, you know, this is like kind of like a family. You know, we know about them, we celebrate birthdays in class and so on and so forth. So everybody writes something, we are very curious to see. Okay, so we'll do that. And so 12, 13, 14 tests later, you're done with your course, and at least you should be able to say that, you know, I am done with my optional. Okay, not that the optional has been finished in ForumIAS. You should feel like, you know, I have, when you look at your material now, see, post prelims, I'll tell you, one of the most important things is that when you look back, prelims, after prelims, now you will not even know where is your anthro stuff. You've forgotten 3 months scale, you've not even done anthropology. But when you take out all the anthro material, you should be able to see, okay, these are the handouts that I've done. You have all your highlighting and writing and side notes and examples, all of those mentioned. And most importantly, this is my assignment stuff, and this is the number of tests that I have written. You know what? I am actually good to go. Okay, I was there. Okay, at that particular level, it is not going to be very difficult for me to get there again. Okay, anthro can be that thing that helps you get to your final goal. In my opinion, actually, I landed in anthropology. You know, it was some sort of like a chance factor, some sort of fortuitous sort of series of events basically got me there, because I needed something that is very short. I was thinking of mathematics. I told you, right? Like I'm a little more of a academically inclined sort of a person. I thought that, you know, there is something that I can handle. But I thought, and I had a friend who's my friend was my senior in school for many years ago. He had done ethnography with the Todas. He's an anthropologist. He was a professor at Hyderabad University, where I basically just started my journey. No, I mean, I was in Hyderabad when I started my journey, so I always had some mentor, right? I can call him and ask him and debate ideas. Generally, class mein kya hota hai na? Like, we don't have that, you know, they say it and, you know, you have to accept it. But since this is my friend, anything that he says, I will debate him, and I'll probably get a complete idea, you know, because he'll also play the devil's advocate. So that was there to some extent. Then so somehow I landed here. Okay, I was not very keen on writing, you know, having a paper in which I have to write so much. You know, mathematics or something like this is just numbers, seemed like okay to me. But somehow I landed here, and actually I'm honestly kind of happy. You know, anthro, I've always felt that it was a little more fair, you know, or maybe a little unfair to the others. You know, because there are people who have felt that they have done well in a paper and ended up finding out that they were nowhere close to the kind of targets they had. In anthropology, I felt that it was always given me more than what I had deserved. Even the year, you know, even when you're around 300, you will feel like, did you really deserve that? There are so many questions you could have done better. Meaning that is not even your best potential. Did you finish the paper? Towards the end, did you rush? Did you put in everything that you wanted to do? Even despite that, if you're getting that kind of a score, I generally feel that anthro, maybe uniqueness, there are some things that work out for you. But it has been kind. Okay, it's a good subject actually. If you guys have any more questions, we'll stick around. If not, I will wish. Any more questions? I will wish all of you, think hard, choose, okay? But whatever it takes, get there, right? UPSC list, believe that, visualize this. There is a list that is going to come out in May 2024 with my name on it. Really visualize it, you know, at the end of the day, you can do anything that you want. Nelson Mandela, right? We fear, what is the saying that, you know, see, the biggest limitation on ourselves is just us. Okay, we are literally limitless in what you can achieve, but you've got to believe that. A lot of times you can do all of the effort, but you know, constantly when something is dragging you down at the back of your head saying that, can I do it? Mere se hoga, ki nahi hoga? You know, what am I doing? You know, all of these kind of things will never let you get there. So just believe and visualize that there is that list in 2024 that is coming out, and it's got your name. You should be able to see you, your the rank, the roll number, and everything. And you know, now everything that you're doing is to sort of attain that. Okay, so believe and do it, and you know, I wish you the very best. Okay.